On the subject of Samaria, both a capital city and a territory, I have a vision of a golden age of civilization under King Solomon's rule. King Solomon is known to have embarked upon a program of building and to have had mines in various lands. Look at what he is depicted to be holding in his right hand on the screen. It is a structure like a cathedral in the type of architecture that is alleged to be medieval. It is symbolic to represent the fact he was a maker of civilization and was the builder of ancient structures. But Solomon reigned nearly 1,000 years before Christ, so was the artist ignorant and mistaken? Or is it because those structures worldwide are much older than it's been alleged? All over the world the evidence for an ancient technology, for instance the one incorporated in dome structures, was removed by the Cabal because of their scheme to charge mankind for electricity, and probably for other reasons, such as keeping it secret for themselves. The tribe of Ephraim migrated to Europe and the British Isles. The term British means man of the covenant in Hebrew. The Druids descended from that tribe of Ephraim. Ephraim and his brother Manasseh were sons of the Joseph who became Pharaoh of Egypt. Their descendants escaped from Egypt in the Exodus, with Moses. According to academic exegetes this was in about 1300 BC, whereas King Solomon died in about 922 BC. So a golden age could have existed from before King David's rule to Solomon's, over a period of 200 to 400 years. King Solomon also had ships that crossed the oceans just as is known of the Phoenicians, as well as maps. There is a myth about his flying on a magical carpet, and in Tibet there is a recollection of his airships. King Solomon ruled over a unified kingdom of Israel that was scattered all over the world, and that's the reason for the notion of the lost tribes of Israel. But they were only lost to the tribe of Judah that returned to its original location after captivity. The following is from the official version of history. King Solomon, also called Yedidiah, created the wealthiest and most powerful central government of all times. He was the second after his father, King David, and last king of a unified Israel, which was at the height of its power during his reign. He is known for his wisdom and for being the king of Israel who built the first temple in Jerusalem. I have some doubt that Solomon ruled from Jerusalem. But let's continue. Solomon ruled over a unified kingdom of Israel including the tribe of Judah. Some historians speak negatively about King Solomon too and even depict him as a tyrant. But the story from the Bible is that Solomon was endowed by God with wisdom and discernment. Because he asked for wisdom, God gave him a lot more, and his kingdom was the most powerful ever. The argument can be that if he had wisdom and discernment, it is unlikely that Solomon would have tyrannized his subjects as it is unwise to do so. But seeing good in manifestation, the forces of darkness started their work of division of the kingdom of Israel after Solomon's death. After Solomon died between 926 and 922 BC, the kingdom of Ammon successfully seceded from Israel. Within a century of Solomon's death, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah were left as two states within the north, Israel, and in the south, Judah. Then a king Omri founded a city called Samaria around 880 BC. Samaria became the capital of the kingdom of Israel, or of the Israelites. The kingdom of Israel in the north with capital Samaria existed as an independent state until it was conquered by the Assyrians in 722 BC. The fortress of the city of Samaria fell to the Assyrians. In the south, the kingdom of Judah ceased to exist by 586 BC when it was conquered by the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The tribe of Judah was taken into captivity, but returned and centralized their cult in Jerusalem around the time of Ezra and the monotheist reform of the 5th century BC. The Samaritans descend from the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. Their ancestors, the Israelites, came out of Egypt with Moses, and they also descend from the tribe of Levi. It is erroneous to call the Samaritans Jews because this term relates to the tribe of Judah. The Samaritans preserved the tradition of Israel. I propose that the lost tribes of Israel of the time of giant Phoenician seafarers and merchants were the makers of civilization and builders that populated the American continent well before Columbus. There are star forts all around the world that I believe may have been constructed in the days of King Solomon and of the Phoenicians, with the science inherited from the Atlanteans. The Samaritans, of Samaria, claim that it was not them, but the Jews, who separated from the original unified kingdom of Israel. The state of Israel is but the tribe of Judah, and that's why their religion is called Judaism. The term Judaism is related to the tribe of Judah. The people of the Exodus who came out of Egypt with Moses, in contrast, are called Israelites. The Samaritan scripture differ from the Masoretic text dated to the 9th century AD, 1000 years after Christ. In the days of King Solomon, the type of writing would have been an ancient Hebrew standardized by Samuel. The Aramaic Hebrew adopted by Ezra in 458 BC preceded the Masoretic Hebrew. The state of Israel is not the real Israel. Why is it important to realize this? Because a covenant, meaning a deal, was established between God and Abraham, and that was about Jacob's descendants. Jacob, son of Isaac, was renamed Israel. However, it is the souls destined to incarnate in those descendants that were and are the true Israel. They incarnated in those descendants of the tribes of Israel which were scattered in various nations. What really existed in those days of Solomon's rule, and perhaps under his father, King David, must have been concealed by conspiracy or ignorance. After decades of excavations, archaeologists have found no evidence for King Solomon in Jerusalem, and the Ark of the Covenant, which was supposed to have been in his temple since Moses' time, has disappeared. Perhaps they have been looking in the wrong place, because the state of Israel is not the ancient Israel of the Bible.